During a family cruise, my mother-in-law decided to try and embarrass me by telling everyone that I had filed for bankruptcy when I was in my early 20s. She had married into money and thought it was funny to laugh about it. I did not argue back. I stayed quiet. But the next evening, I bought first-class plane tickets home for everyone except her. She had to fly back on the overnight flight, stuck in a coach seat, all by herself. I even paid for her ticket with a voucher from my company card. Even though this happened a few years ago, it still feels fresh in my mind. I was 33 at the time. My husband, Ethan, and I had been married for 4 years, but we had been together for 8. We live in Austin, Texas these days, but I grew up in Dayton, Ohio. My background was far from spotless, which is probably why what she did hurt me so bad. Let me rewind a little. When I was 23, life knocked me down hard. I was working 2 jobs, juggling a full college schedule, and barely scraping by to cover rent. Then, everything went sideways. First, my car broke down and could not be saved. Then I caught pneumonia and was so sick I missed nearly 3 weeks of work. To make things worse, the boss at my evening job just disappeared one day without paying me for 2 weeks of work. I had no family to lean on. I did not even own a credit card. I had nowhere to turn. Filing for bankruptcy was my only choice if I wanted any chance to catch my breath. It was rough, but it gave me a second chance to rebuild my life. I never kept it from Ethan. I told him about it on our 3rd date. He told me he respected me even more for surviving it. Over time, I picked myself up. I got into the finance world, worked my tail off, and eventually earned a director-level position at a company that manages investments for wealthy clients. I started making good money. We bought a home. I never missed a single payment again. I never brought up my past unless someone asked. But my mother-in-law, Linda, never forgot. And worse than that, she never forgave it. She would act sweet when others were around, but her eyes always gave her away. If someone complimented me, she would smile politely but quickly change the topic. She always called Ethan her baby and made sure everyone knew she thought he was the smartest person in any room. When it came to me, I was always hardworking or such a trooper. Her compliments always had a bite to them. She never thought I was good enough for her son. Ethan would tell me to brush it off. "That is just how she is," he would say. I tried to listen. I really did. Then came the cruise. Ethan booked it to bring the family together. 7 nights on a Royal Caribbean ship, fancy dinners, island excursions, the whole package. His dad came along, though he mostly kept to himself. His sister Samantha and her husband Jason joined too. A few cousins signed up as well. Honestly, I did not want to go. But I went. I went for Ethan. I hoped that being away from home, in a relaxed place, might make things better. Maybe we would have some fun. Maybe Linda would act right for once. The first 2 days went fine. Linda kept to herself for the most part. She made a few jabs, like asking if I loved the buffet a little too much or wondering how I could take time off work without stressing over the bills. I let it slide. I gave her a big smile. I even said thank you when she handed me this cheap bracelet she had picked up at our second stop on the islands. Then came the 3rd night of the trip. It was the night we were all supposed to dress fancy for a formal dinner. Everybody looked sharp. We were sipping wine, laughing, and digging into steak and lobster like we were in some fancy movie scene. Everything felt just right, until Linda lifted her glass for a toast. She called out to my wonderful daughter-in-law, but something about the way she said it made my stomach turn. All eyes turned toward her. She was grinning way too wide. She said something like, "It just goes to show that anyone can turn their life around. Even after filing for bankruptcy." I froze in place. Linda looked me dead in the eye and said, "She married up," and then let out a loud laugh. A few folks gave some nervous little chuckles, like maybe it was just some joke. But I saw Samantha's face drain of color. Her husband could not even look up. Ethan's jaw tightened hard enough to crack. I kept my mouth shut. I simply nodded, took a long drink from my glass, and smiled like nothing had happened. Later that night, Ethan came to me fuming. He wanted to go after Linda right then and there. Said he was tired of dealing with her nonsense. I told him not to waste his breath. I had a better plan. Something a little cleaner. Something she would not forget so easy. What Linda did not know was that a couple weeks before the trip, I had used my corporate credit card to upgrade our flights home. One of my work perks is that I can book my own personal trips through the company's travel site and snag deep discounts. It still hit my wallet pretty good, but it was worth every penny. The rest of us, me, Ethan, Samantha, Jason, and the cousins, we were set to fly home first class. Non-stop. In the middle of the day. All the food and drinks we could want. Big comfy seats. The whole 9 yards. Linda? She had her own ticket. Coach class. Red-eye flight. Middle seat. No special treatment. No way to upgrade. I made sure of it. I waited until almost the last night of the trip to hand out the flight details. I printed everything up and tucked them into little white envelopes, just like one of those cheesy surprise parties. Everybody opened theirs. Samantha let out a happy squeal. "You did not," she said. "First class." I just shrugged and said, "Thought we could all use a little extra comfort." Linda opened her envelope last. I watched her face twist up. "What is this?" she asked, holding up her paper. "That is your flight," I said. "This is a different time." "And it is coach," she said, sounding mad. I shrugged again. "Guess the first class seats filled up before I got to booking yours." "Real shame." She blinked hard at me. "You paid for everyone else?" I nodded. "Work perk." The whole table went quiet. That night, Linda boarded her lonely red-eye flight. Middle seat. No family sitting with her. No glass of wine. Not even a snack cart. When we landed the next day, feeling rested and full, I flipped on my phone and saw a single message from Linda. "You humiliated me," it said. I never replied. She had started it. You would think after something like that, she would have learned her lesson. But that was not Linda. She got home, and came back even meaner. First sign was when she stayed silent for 2 whole weeks. There were no calls. No text messages. Not even a comment on Facebook, which for Linda, was a big deal. Ethan did not seem to mind. He was still burning mad about the stunt she pulled on the cruise. But I knew better. When Linda went quiet, it did not mean she had given up. It meant she was plotting. Sure enough, by the 3rd week, she started posting online. She did not tag anyone by name, but it was as plain as day who she was talking about. She put up things like, "Some people think money can buy class. It cannot. It just buys fake friends." And, "It is sad when punishing your own family becomes a joke. You reap what you sow." She was not even trying to be sneaky about it. Ethan told her straight out to knock it off. She ignored him completely. Samantha ended up unfollowing her altogether. Me? I stayed quiet. I had already played my card. I was not about to get dragged into another fight. But Linda could not leave well enough alone. She took it to a whole new level. She showed up at my work. Let me make something clear, my job is not the kind of place where somebody's mom just strolls in. It is high-level finance. We wear suits, we swipe key cards to get anywhere, and there are guards at the front desk. Nobody gets past that desk unless they are on the day's schedule. Somehow, she found her way in anyway. I was right in the middle of a meeting when my assistant knocked lightly on the door. "There is someone here," she whispered. "She says she is your mother-in-law." I tried to stop her. I got up from the table and walked out. And there Linda was, standing in reception with this smug little smile like she belonged there. "I just wanted to talk," she said loud enough that a few heads turned our way. I thought we were family. My blood ran cold. I led her into a small conference room and shut the door behind us. I kept my voice low and tight. What in the world are you doing here? You humiliated me in front of my children, she shot back. I raised that boy. I do not care how much money you make, you do not treat me like garbage. You humiliated me first, I said, keeping steady. You brought up something you knew was painful. You laughed at me in front of everybody. What did you think would happen? She leaned in close, eyes hard. You think having money gives you real power? It doesn't. Family always comes first. I did not even bother answering. I just opened the door and held it there until she walked out. As she left, she muttered something about how everything comes back around. I figured it was just more of her dramatic talk. But then a week later, something strange happened. Human Resources called me in. Said they had received an anonymous email. Someone had accused me of misusing the company's money for personal travel. I could not believe what I was hearing. I laid everything out for them, every receipt, every detail about the travel program, even the approval I had gotten from the vice president months earlier. After I showed them everything, they believed me. Case closed. But I knew exactly who had sent that email. And now? Now it was a different ball game. That meeting with Human Resources shook me up more than I cared to admit. Even though I was totally cleared, and they promised it would not show up on my record, it rattled me. Not because I had done anything wrong, but because I realized Linda was willing to cross that line. Sneaking into my office was one thing. Trying to wreck my career? That was a whole other beast. Ethan was furious when I told him. He wanted to go storming over to her house and tell her off face to face. I told him no. I needed to handle this my own way. Quietly. I was ready to end it, sharp and final. And right about then, a little help came from a place I never expected. One night, Samantha called me. She had stayed pretty quiet since the cruise, mostly keeping her distance, but deep down, I knew she did not agree with the way her mother had been acting. I need to tell you something, she said. Turns out, Linda had been making her rounds, whispering to cousins, aunts, even Samantha's own friends. She was spinning stories that I was trying to buy everyone's loyalty. Telling folks I was flashing money around just to push her out. That I was dangerous. Manipulative. And the worst part? Linda had started telling people that I forged Ethan's signature on a loan application 5 years ago. A complete and total lie. I do not even know what her endgame is, Samantha said. But she is trying to poison everyone against you. It is worse than you think. When I hung up the phone, I just sat there for a while, numb. That night, I poured myself a stiff drink, opened up my laptop, and stared at a folder I had been quietly putting together for some time. I had never planned to use it, not unless I had to. Now? Now I was ready. See, besides my job in finance, I had a side project. I had been quietly helping women, mostly single moms and women who had been through financial abuse, rebuild their credit. I never charged them a dime. I volunteered through a nonprofit organization I supported on the side. Over the years, I had gotten good at spotting people who looked rich on the outside but were drowning inside. People who covered their problems with shiny clothes and big smiles. Linda? She had been throwing up red flags for years. There was the night her credit card got declined at dinner. She blamed it on fraud. Another time, she gave Ethan a birthday check but begged him not to cash it just yet. She even once asked me, real casual, if I knew anything about refinancing a home equity line of credit, even though she always bragged about her house being fully paid off. I started looking into it, legally, all through public records. And what I found? Linda was not just in debt, she was sinking. A second mortgage on her home. Maxed out credit cards. 2 separate personal loans. And the real kicker? She had taken out a payday loan just before the cruise. She had been strutting around like queen of the world while her financial life was falling apart behind the scenes. I held on to that information. I wanted her to keep digging her own hole. And sure enough, she did. 2 weeks later, Ethan's aunt, the sweetest lady you could ever meet, gave me a call. She said she hated to get involved but thought I should know. Linda was telling people I had blackmailed my company into letting me expense those first-class tickets. She was out there warning folks to stay away from me because I was shady. That was it. I gave it one more week. Then I made my move. I sat down and wrote a letter. 1 page. Printed it off and mailed it straight to Linda's house. Inside, I laid it all out, plain and simple. A breakdown of every one of her debts. Loan balances. Sky-high interest rates. A copy of the lien notice that had been placed on her house 6 months earlier. At the bottom, I wrote, "You came after me. Now I know exactly what you were trying to hide. Keep my name out of your mouth, or next time this goes public." No signature. No threats. Just cold, hard truth. 3 days later, my phone rang. It was her. She did not even try to deny any of it. "You have made a powerful enemy," she said, her voice low and shaking. I hung up without saying a word. She started this. And I was just getting warmed up. After that letter, Linda went silent. No phone calls. No nasty Facebook posts. Nothing. At first, I thought maybe, just maybe, it had worked. Maybe I had drawn the line deep enough. But deep down, I should have known better. Linda was not the type to quit. She was the type to wait and plot. Sure enough, about 6 weeks later, everything blew up. Ethan's cousin Emily was getting married, big outdoor wedding down in Fredericksburg, Texas. The whole family was going to be there. Including Linda. I told Ethan I did not want to go. I had a bad feeling about it. Felt it deep in my gut. He begged me. "You have done nothing wrong," he said. "She is the one who should be embarrassed." He was right. Still, the knot in my stomach would not go away. But I went anyway. I should have trusted my gut. At first, everything seemed fine. Beautiful setup. Perfect weather. Everybody laughing and drinking, pretending like nothing was wrong. Then, during the reception, I stepped away to use the restroom. When I came back, I could feel it. The mood had shifted. People were whispering. Eyes were darting my way. I spotted Samantha rushing toward me. "She just announced it," she said, breathless. "Announced what?" I asked. "That you have been blackmailing her. That you are dangerous. That you are stealing from your company." At first, I actually laughed. I thought maybe it was some bad joke. Then I saw the video. Linda had grabbed the microphone from the DJ during a lull and went on a 2-minute rant about how some people hide behind money and power. How not everything that glitters is clean. She never said my name, she did not have to. Everyone knew exactly who she meant. I stood there, shaking. Part of me wanted to run. Part of me wanted to scream. Part of me wanted to rip the microphone right out of her hands. I did none of that. Instead, I pulled out my phone, opened an email file I had saved just for this kind of thing and sent all. The next morning, I filed a formal complaint with my company's legal department. I laid it all out, how a family member was spreading lies and trying to harm my reputation. They took it seriously. Real seriously. They brought in a private investigator. And guess what? Linda had actually reached out to 2 of our clients. Left voicemails. Tried to plant seeds of doubt about me. She thought she was being clever. She was not. The company fired off a cease and desist letter, full of legal threats and a very clear warning. One more move, and she would be facing a lawsuit. But I was not finished yet. And through it all? Ethan was still standing by me. I decided to take it one step further. We reached out to Ethan's dad, a quiet man, always kept to himself. He usually stayed out of all the drama. But it turned out, he had been holding back a lot too. Turns out, Linda had been draining their joint savings account. Lying about expenses. Covering up debts. She had even forged his signature on a car loan he had no idea about. 2 months later, he filed for divorce. It was quiet. It was clean. But it was brutal. She lost the house. Had to pack up and move into a small apartment. Her credit rating dropped like a rock. And her so-called social circle? Gone. People still smiled and nodded when they saw her. But they kept their distance. Nobody wants to cozy up to someone who turns on their own family for fun. And me? I learned a few things from all this. I learned that I had let her get away with way too much, for way too long. I thought keeping my head down would keep the peace. I let her poke and prod and belittle me because I did not want to make waves. But some people? They do not stop when you stay quiet. They just push harder. So I pushed back. And when it was all said and done, I would not say I felt good, not exactly. But I felt finished. And that was enough. Ethan and I started going to couples therapy. Not because we were broken, but because we both realized we had let toxic people control too much of our lives for too long. I stopped answering calls from people who only wanted the latest gossip. I pulled my circle in tighter. Funny enough, Samantha and I grew closer through all of it. She admitted she had always known her mother was like that, she just never knew how to handle it. I never had the guts to stand up to her, Samantha told me once. Yeah, I said. It takes a lot. In the end, it was Linda who ended up all alone. And me? I finally found my peace. Not by yelling. Not by fighting. By pulling back the curtain. By showing the truth. And letting her burn herself down with it.